Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you.
So, how are you doing today, first off? I don't like to do these things just, being aggressive. How are you doing today?
All right, I'm doing great. Yeah.
Good as we can under the circumstances, I reckon.
Yeah, true.
So, I heard our former negotiators had an impasse that they reached. I think I've been told, and I'm sure you have as well, that both of our sides have agreed and stipulated on everything else except for Article 22.
Yes.
So with that, that controls our use, ability to assign, and ability to sublease.
Yes.
I'll be pretty forward with you. What do you all not like about our contract? It's standard for us. From our perspective, I know that you don't like, you want assurance that we're not just going to pull out. But, we've come to the table, we're looking to make a deal. We've come this far. Is that really a deal breaker for you all?
Well, so in order to go into article or to explain all of why this won't work for us, I would have to start going through Article 22. I did just want to say thank you so much for being so patient.
Of course.
With us, and we've come so far. I really think that this could be easily resolved. I think the previous negotiators were a little bit tired, maybe.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think tempers maybe ran a bit high in resolving some other issues. For us, we can break it down from our contracts into use, assignment, and subleasing. Just being kind of direct again, all of those are just kind of standard for us. They give us freedom to market ourselves. This is a new market for us. The flexibility is a huge value. We don't know how things are going to go in this market. You've done an amazing job as a developer thus far. We've looked at some of your other projects, and they're fantastic, which is why we've, come to the table. What are your concerns from, your perspective on, the use, assignment, or sublease? Is there one that worries you more than the others?
Well, it's not really the use that worries us. It's more the assignment and the sublease portion that kind of worries us. Going through this provision, here we go. It says, tenant may assign this lease or sublet the whole or any part of the premises, but if it does so, it shall remain liable and responsible under this lease. So when we have the problem with the assignment is when the original tenant retains no right of reversion, and that the assignee is usually liable to the landlord to perform all of the original tenant's obligations. So, that last part doesn't really bother us, except it says that the assignee is usually liable to the landlord. So we're kind of scared about any exceptions that might come out of that.
And I completely understand that. So just to make sure I'm on the same page as you, basically you're worried about us pulling out, and then a new anchor tenant coming in, who possibly may be insolvent or something like that. And if they fall through, you're worried about the liability on that side. Is that accurate?
Yeah, pretty much. And so there's that portion. And then the other portion of assignment, the no right of reversion, the equity firm that we're working with, the one that's financing us, they're saying that we need an anchor tenant, and that means we need someone permanently there.
Okay.
So there's that.
Okay. So when you say permanently there,
well, we need someone there to kind of hold the whole thing together.
Okay. Well, I definitely understand that. I've looked at your business plans, and it looks like you have only one anchor tenant, and then a few satellite stores developing on the second level, and then on either side of the anchor store, both the first and second level. So I definitely understand your need for an anchor tenant. I mean, I've looked at other projects where the anchor tenant has fallen through, and that's arguably your main source of foot traffic.
Right.
And that helps build up your satellite stores and makes them viable. Mm-hmm. So if you're worried about the liability of an anchor tenant if we were to assign, how can we fix that? I have a few ideas that may help.
I'd love to hear them.
Okay. I mean, first off, with our business model, we want to maintain our freedom. So I'll be upfront, we're gonna have to leave the ability to assign or sublease from our perspective. Now, we're not opposed to putting some restrictions on that.
Okay.
So we're worried about the long-term viability of your market. And I assume from your perspective, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're worried about getting an anchor tenant in there to build up the development and also secure satellite tenants in the other levels.
Right.
So, we're worried about the long term. How about we, do away with the ability to sign or sublease or limit it for a period of time, and then after that revert back to our original Article 22. So maybe for the, first 10 years or so, limit the ability to assign or sublease it based on your discretion. So you have, we produce a new possible anchor tenant. Within reason, you may refuse it, for that time. And if for some reason we still have issues over that or something, we'll agree to arbitration to resolve that issue to see if your objections are reasonable and then move forward based on that. Any thoughts on that? And then after those 10 years, revert back to our standard Article 22. So
you're saying the first 10 years, just out of curiosity, why pick the first 10 years?
That's usually our, I think that 10 years is an appropriate time period. It helps us gauge, again, the long-term viability of that market. It's a smaller town. The Walmart in Knoxville, a larger town, survived for 5 years.
Okay.
10 years, frankly, worries me a little bit, but, we've come this far. I think it's a more sufficient consideration for you all and in respect for your company. We up the time frame to 10 years, and that should give us, ample time to kind of gauge the market.
Okay.
It also gives you ample time to build up your satellite stores. Another reason we chose 10 years is because that leaves enough time on the back end for a new tenant, if we were to assign it, to, for at least be worth it. It gives them, our lease is for 25 years. That gives them a 15-year lease. Okay. Not unreasonable for them. And also, it gives us time to, if we decide to, find a new tenant. I don't know if I mentioned this previously. If I didn't, forgive me. Finding a new tenant, we would also incur the cost of that for you all. So as is custom with assignment and subleasing, so we'll handle all the paperwork, and pay that cost. Okay,
just out of curiosity, do you have any tenants in mind that you're looking at as of now? The ones that you're saying to assign or sublease, or is there anyone in particular, or is this just freedom to do so?
Currently, we do not. I think that, and I think the reason that we haven't planned that is we're hoping that this will succeed.
Right.
We want to keep our options open, but at the same time, we don't necessarily want to be pessimistic about it.
Right. Have you done this before? Signing or subleasing?
Yes, ma'am. It's our standard business practice. Article 22 is included in basically all of our leasing contracts.
Okay.
And again, that just gives us flexibility with, freedom. It's a smaller town, like I said. And in recent years, strip malls like this, unfortunately, haven't been doing as well. As of, I think it was 2015, as soon as an anchor store closes the entire satellite stores, most of them go out of business. 2015, I believe the number was about 6,500 satellite stores closed, primarily because their anchor stores closed in the same facilities. So, I mean, I think that point is also an incentive for you all to, not trying to be overly aggressive, provide us with a little bit of flexibility. If you can't get an anchor store in right away, you're going to have a hard time getting satellite stores in as well.
Sure.
And we're willing to take the chance on this and go ahead with the deal. We just need some flexibility on the back end. And like I said, I think 10 years is enough time to have us gauge the market. If for some reason we don't like the market, we can incur the cost of trying to find a new tenant with your reasonable approval. And 10 years is plenty of time to get your satellite stores in.
Okay. I will say that this is a pretty good offer. I'm just going to come out and say that. I was curious as to why you picked the first 10 years, because the equity firm that we're working with will be financed for about 10 years. And they're the kind of the main issue as to why.
We happen to notice that as well.
Okay. So, yeah, that was like my main concern there. So, Hawkins, you said that your business, Discount Marketplace, is looking for flexibility.
Yes.
The main concern for Hawkins was actually the exact opposite. It was control. Because, I mean, we've all come this far putting this whole thing together. And so his main concern, I believe, looking at this Article 22, at least the way it's written, is that you guys could bring anybody in. And then we have to think about the other stores with like non-compete agreements. So that was like one of the main issues. We didn't want, like, let's say you come in with, I don't know, a sandwich store, right? But then we have another sandwich store and they're like, hey, you said that if we were here, you wouldn't put this other one. So then we have issues with them.
I understand.
So that was like one of the main concerns that we had. I'm really liking your idea of the first 10 years scrapping this.
Well, we would...
Or amending it.
We would amend it.
And
like I said, I think that we would be comfortable so long as, we retain still in those 10 years the ability to assign and sublease it with your reasonable approval. So with that, we would do something, I can expand on that a little bit. Something of a financial concern, if you do have non-compete agreements, something of that nature. And if for some reason, we come to an impasse with that, if we were to respectfully disagree that there's no problem or something, take it to arbitration, and we can supply the arbiter, and that shouldn't be a problem. I did want to talk about some non-competes. I saw that you also have in your business plans, a fitness center that is probable.
Yes.
We generally sell, a lot of soft goods, clothes, beauty equipment, some fitness equipment. For that fitness center, I did not know if you'd be willing to, I don't know if they're going to, have a store in it of themselves. Some of the larger gyms do. Do you know if they were looking for a non-compete agreement? Because that may influence our ability to sell fitness products.
Okay, so with this fitness center, the facts that I were given doesn't say really anything about this center here, but we can make sure that if we do put a fitness center, let's say a gym, for instance, we can make sure that they don't sell anything. Is that what you're looking for?
I was just concerned about it. As far as if they have a non-compete agreement or something like that.
Okay, so
that was kind of a mystery to us, to be honest. And it says probable, so I don't know if if you're looking at another lender for it or something. It may be on a matter for another day, and we can put that to the side.
Okay.
That just was a quick curiosity on my point.
Yeah, no, that's, I didn't even actually realize about that center possibly being an issue. So, but based on the information I was given, it doesn't seem like there was an issue.
Okay.
But again, we can put that to make sure that either they don't have a non-compete or if it's just like a straight up gym.
Okay.
So we can look into that.
Okay. That was just curiosity on my part, so I apologize for getting off track on that.
No, that's perfectly fine.
But, okay, well, so we have right now currently, bring to, as far as assignment and sublease, limit it with your discretion, reasonable discretion, up to 10 years, and then after that, it reverts back to our Article 22. Do you have any questions or concerns on that or of our use? I know that you said initially that use wasn't necessarily an issue.
Use wasn't really an issue.
Okay, so for that, and I just want to make sure, after that period or during that period, right now we basically have, we operate as a big box store, kind of like Walmart or Target.
Right.
Now with our use, and even with our subletting, it enables us to subdivide our store. With that, I know that, it'll become more or less similar to your satellite stores. And I want to make sure that we can retain that ability to basically subdivide it in our usage.
Okay.
And our ability to sublet. Assignment, obviously, would be more likely to do it as a whole. But use and sublet, I want to make sure that we can retain our ability to subdivide our space.
So we had spoken about assignment already. Would you mind if I go into subletting real quick?
Of course, no problem.
So subletting is a transfer of the right of possession to all or part of the leased property. The original tenant retains a reversion. You can take it back whenever you wish. And the subtenant is not liable to the landlord for the original tenant's obligations. That portion right there is kind of what we're concerned with. Is not liable to us for any of your obligations.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Well, for that, you can still come after us for our obligations. If we do sublet it, feasibly, and things do happen, I understand that, but feasibly we would, sublet to a tenant that had the means and funds to uphold their obligations. We have the resources to kind of look through and sift through and filter out any bad subtenants. So I do want to address that and kind of put your mind at ease.
Okay.
Now with that, we generally would take the liability for that.
Okay.
So I don't think you'd really have to worry necessarily about the subleasing. And with assignment, of course, they're straightly liable to you.
Right. That's the one thing we did like about assignment versus sublet.
Okay, so your main issue, so maybe with assignment, are you saying that you want to be a little harsher on the subleasing aspect of it?
Yes. I did like your idea about assignment where with the whole reasonable approval, we talked about it.
Okay.
Maybe if we had something like that with the subleasing as well.
Okay.
Something like reasonable approval, we'd sit down, talk about it, see if, number one, the financial concern, the non-compete agreements, make sure that that's all taken care of and out of the way.
Apologies for anything else
No.
for the final. So, generally I don't think that'd be an issue.
Okay.
So do just basically mirror what we have of assignment right now and do it also for subleasing.
I would say so. I mean, I don't see an issue as to why not.
Okay. So for that, I mean, I'll go ahead and double check what we have right now. So for use, we're going to maintain, however we want to use it within reason. Obviously, we're not going to, use it as a practice fire martial exercise or anything.
Perfect.
But leave us the ability to, use it in whole or subdivide it for ourselves. And then for the assignment and sublease, we retain the ability to do so. We think it's a great market to get into. The one thing we're worried about is the long-term longevity of it. I think 10 years for all parties is a good number. It gives tenants on the back end enough time to make the investment, worthwhile. Gives us enough time to affect the market. It takes care of the needs of your lender. And it gives us enough time to, make arrangements if we do decide that we would like to vacate. So for that, do a 10-year period.
Right.
With assignment subleasing. Ability to do so with your reasonable approval. You can articulate a financial reason. Oh, do you have a question?
Yes.
Yes.
So we weren't. So I'm totally understand what you're saying, and I want to be able to get those first 10 years settled. The thing is, equity firm. They're kind of really harsh about not having that provision, only because they want something on paper that says that you would be able to finance or be able to hold up your end of the financing and all of that. They want something solid.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if it's possible, if for the first 10 years we either don't have that provision, or we have a provision that states that we can, let's say, assign or something with the reasonable approval portion.
And then just take out the subletting?
Right, take out subletting, we'll put assignment, and then, because this is a lease term of 25 years, 6 successive options running that could extend. So I'm thinking after those 10 years, we have another sit down so we can draft up the new paperwork when equity is out of the way.
From my perspective, I like assignment. I think you like assignment.
Yes.
That takes care of my liability, and it gets you a new tenant who is liable. On the flip side, from our research, we found that subletting is much more attractive option for possible new tenants.
Okay.
Especially for a term of, even if we do 10 years, still leaves 15 terms on the 15 years on the lease.
Understood.
Some individuals, it's attractive, it's great. Some individuals would jump at it. Others would probably prefer to sublease. Gives them the flexibility, and with them having flexibility as, a buyer of the lease, gives us more flexibility to come through and have it more marketable, the space from our side. So I'd really like to retain the ability both to assign and to sublease.
So if we amend it, don't keep the article as is, but amend to have that reasonable approval for X, Y, and Z, then we could probably run that by equity and see if that would be acceptable. Which, I mean, they probably should take it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll be honest, from my information, you all came to us first.
Yeah.
You seem to be eager to make a deal. You can correct me if I'm wrong. From your perspective, you want something solid. You want security.
Yes, definitely.
You want peace of mind in knowing that, okay, you have a tenant for so long, or some kind of safety net to make sure that someone is in the space. That protects your investment, that makes you money. You also want someone that's going to attract satellite stores. And with that, most often you have an anchor store pop up first, and then the satellite stores come in you work out all the non-competes and stuff like that. But the anchor store is what really gives you the foot traffic.
Yes.
So, I mean, from that, we're willing to make this deal, and I'm not trying to be difficult or anything, but the ability to assign and sublease, from your perspective, you want security. From our perspective, we want flexibility to change with the market. If this market can't support one of our stores, we don't want to keep throwing in money.
Understood.
And quite frankly, if the store is losing money, and we can't assign or sublease it, we would still pay the lease. But frankly, I believe that management would stop funneling, extra funds into the store to maintain it. Obviously they'll, clean it and stuff, but it's not going to be a store that they take care of.
Okay.
And if the anchor store isn't taken care of, you lose foot traffic, you lose satellite stores, and you lose more money from them.
Right. I understand your point here.
So, I mean, from that perspective, it starts at the top with your anchor store. And I think that we're willing to make a deal. I understand your reserves about the subleasing. And of course your financing concerns about the subleasing. But with that, when you look at everything in totality, I think it's a reasonable offer.
No, I understand. And I think if we keep that reasonable approval with the financial concern, non-compete agreements, whatever else we can think of that might be an issue, if we could put that within that article, I don't see why equity would have an issue with that.
Okay, so we'll basically use the article as written and then say something along the lines of, however, for the first 10 years of the lease period, Hawkins has a right to refuse assignment or subleasing of marketplace through, if they can, exhibit reasonably financial objections. Any disputes about this is subject to arbitration provided by marketplace.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, well, with that, I think that your security is strengthened. I think our flexibility is retained. I think we're good on that.
All right.
If you're ready to make a deal, we'll draft it up.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you.
Of course.